Well, I actually got here in time to do a 10-minute blog entry today, so we'll see if I have enough to say. Has yet to be seen. With all the social media that's been taking place, all the Facebook, YouTube, blogs, everything, there's a lot of interesting ramifications of it all, and there's a lot of different things that we're still trying to figure out, right? I mean, social media itself probably has only been around for 5 or 6 years, or at least it's only been mainstream for probably 5 or 6 years at most. And I think by 2005 or so it was becoming pretty popular and so forth, but it's brand new. It really is. I mean, even if it's 10 years old, which is about as old as most really, really old blogs are, it's still brand new. Well, one of the things I've been thinking about is, I'm LDS, and one of the important aspects of my faith is finding my ancestors, and especially making their information available to family and friends and others who are of the same, who have the same family lines and so forth. And hopefully, we'd like to get all family lines found and histories recorded and so forth. And one of the things I've thought about a little bit is, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a database? First off, we've got Facebook, which is probably the biggest database of humans, of living humans on Earth. I could be totally wrong about that. I suppose you could call the census records, U.S. Census and all the world censuses as a documentation of people. But I'm not, and I'm glad we keep those, but I'm not going to count that, because I'm thinking of means to be able to learn about people, not just find out that they exist, but actually find out what do they do, what do they like, what's their personality, and so forth. And wouldn't it be cool if we had some kind of database of every person who has died? You obviously want it to focus on those who have died, because if they're living, you get into privacy issues and safety issues and so forth. But if you had a database of people who have died, and not just names, but their stories, their histories, whatever we have records of them having done, and it would have to be very carefully organized, and I don't know how one would go about doing it. I've thought about how some kind of Wikipedia type of approach might be good, but maybe not too. I mean, obviously Wikipedia has its flaws, and it's not always 100% accurate, even though it's generally fairly accurate. And the thing about Wikipedia that's so amazing is that it's growing so fast that everybody has a say that wants it, and anybody can easily participate at any time. And so there would probably have to be some kind of element of that, because there have just been too many people on the earth for a group to organize this thing. Maybe you'd have to have a group build the infrastructure, but you'd have to have people all over the world inputting onto this. And it would have to be, though I can see the value of having some kind of requirements that they meet in order to qualify as contributors, but it's impractical to think that that if it's a tight qualification that they have to meet, if they have to fill out a great detail of who they are or something, then people just aren't going to participate. if that's the case. It's got to be about as easy to sign up for as Wikipedia is. And there can certainly be user agreements, but kind of take those with a grain of salt. People can or might refuse to accept those terms and might not live by them even if they sign up. Anyway, but it would have to be a database that would have some of their basic information, like when they were born, when they died, where they lived, and then it would have to be able to supply places for histories, for pictures, for even video if it's available, and just be able to have all that, almost like a profile, as well as links to family members, sisters, brothers, parents, kids, for each individual. And if anybody's got any ideas out there, I'd sure like to hear more of them, because of how this could take place, what kind of structure would it have to have? Because obviously in the church, we're going to be focusing on the ordinances and what ordinances are done. And I think there should be a place for that. I think that would be very good to have. But the church does have an infrastructure for that. The new FamilySearch.org site is great for that, and is doing fabulous for that, and it's slowly bringing together the whole family race, basically, the whole human family. So this would have to be something that's a little bit more broad, simply because we want everyone participating in it. We want everyone putting in their family, putting in their ancestors, and contributing in many ways. And I don't know, what would it take? What would it take to do something like that? What would it, and obviously there's got to be able to be some oral history type of stuff, maybe even me talking about my memories of my grandmother on her page. There has to be able to be things where I can post audio of her, and all this information within a profile has to be somehow organized in a sensible way, because while with some people there may only be 2 or 3 bits of information that we even have about them, there will be others where there could be 300 or 400 pages of information from their life, or their writings, or their accomplishments, or just things that people have said about them. And we want all that available. We want people to be able to see that and to be able to learn and research. And think too about what an amazing tool this would be for historians and for students studying the past. Say the first years leading up to, or the very last years leading up to the Civil War time, for example. Where do we go to find out that information? Well, we go to the library and we check out a book by some historian who studied the topic and can tell us what's going on. And they're going to be focusing on the government, what's going on in the government, a little bit of how people are affected, and a little bit of, some of the context of the time period and so forth. Well, that still doesn't tell a lot about Joe McGillicuddy's experience with it. Whereas if Joe McGillicuddy had his own profile with all this information, maybe there could even be a timeline of some kind with links from his timeline to individual stories or things that he said or did or experienced. Maybe he was just working as a farmer at the time the Civil War broke out. Well, what did that mean to him? Because based on where he was living and so forth, there may be some stories that we can find out by learning about his town a little bit, and if those little bits of information we can find are in a profile like that, well, it could be a powerful thing for people learning both about the past and about their own ancestors. Anyway, love to hear your feedback on that. So, thanks.